Good. Oh, it's not. Hold on.
Okay, so namaskar everyone. We're next Kath-e-Baath episode on, and we're gonna be discussing our Kashmiri identity and how we identify as Kashmiris and how we basically want to our Kashmiri culture in the future. Panelist Vivek, you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, sure. I'm Vivek. I've been in the Kashmiri community in Houston pretty much my whole life. Grew up with pretty much everyone here on the call. Um, my mom and her family grew up in Srinagar, after which I think in the 70s or so they moved to Lucknow, but most of her family stayed in Srinagar until 1990. So I've been here my whole life, and really, I think I'm interested to hear a lot of other people's answers. I want to do a better job reconnecting with my heritage. So
Cool. Thank you for being on this episode. And now we'll go on to Somya.
Yeah, so I am from Houston, like most people on this call. I went to UT, graduated 2 years ago, and now have been working in Houston. Through my parents, grandparents, very involved with the Kashmiri community here in Houston, and just have had the privilege to learn a lot about our history. This topic is super important to me because I think we are unfortunately a dying breed, and I feel when you meet your friends from other parts who are from other parts of India, they have sort of an advantage over Kashmiris because there are just more of them. They haven't had to deal with the ethnic cleansing that we have had to deal with. My dad grew up in Delhi, but his family is Kashmiri, and then my mom and her family grew up in Srinagar. So yeah, super excited for this.
Thank you for participating. And next we'll go on to Neil.
Okay, so yeah, I'm also from Houston. I know everybody. Um, I live in Dallas right now. Go to school here. Let's see, and I'm me and Subi.
Hi, I live in Austin. I go to UT. I'm his younger sister, visiting him for the weekend.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, we've also grown up very connected, and especially through my mom, who grew up in Srinagar and when we left after 1990, after the insurgency. And because my dad actually grew up outside, he grew up in Ahmedabad and other places in India. Um, but he was also very connected, and he would go back every summer. But for my mom, we have a very deep connection, and she's what we consider like a whole reservoir of just cultural knowledge. And it's kind of surrounded us as we've grown up, and I think we're realizing that we can't, even if we wanted to, we couldn't really escape it. It's kind of part of who we are now, and we might as well try to address it and try to find some, mutual ideas between all our other Kashmiri folk in the community. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and last but not least, we'll go on to Adi.
Hi, I'm Adi. I've been Kashmiri for 16 years. It's been great. It's been really cool. So, yeah, I guess that's
Awesome.
Okay. And so just want to give a big shout out to Somya and Neil for thinking about this idea and wanting to push it forward. So thank you for making it possible. Also provided some questions here today, so I'm just going to and we'll start a discussion on it. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to comment them on the other page or message me personally. And let's get started. Okay, so we can just go by to start first, or we can go by so on. So first question is, do you feel it's important to maintain our identity as Kashmiri Pandits? Do you feel like you can maintain that identity? Does anyone want to start first, or should we just go one by one?
We could just go one by one.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so Vivek.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm really on this question. To be honest, don't know that I'm doing as much as I would hope to do. So I was really curious. Neil, Somya, I know you guys have kind of thought of the question. Just kind of curious to see what you guys do, maybe on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever it is in your mind and top of mind on how you live your life day to day, even though obviously we're not there and there's a lot that we miss out on by not having kind of a people kind of can be. So I'm pretty curious on this question.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and follow up that by saying, I don't know, what I wanted to kind of get with this question was just, do we even care? Which is fine. I just wanted to gauge like how much people do care or don't care. Because that's probably the first thing I struggled with was, okay, is it even important to me? Should I expend energy maintaining this identity, this culture or something, or is it just easier to, is it too much baggage? Basically, is it too much baggage? Is it not something relevant anymore? Is it something that I could focus other things? Like I could focus that energy on my career, on my education, etc., etc. So I struggled with that first, and what I kind of came to was that I won't be able to leave it just based on how I grew up. Like at this point, it's too deep a part of me that I wouldn't be able to deny it. And I'm not trying to knock people for denying it or for saying that maybe it's not something worth maintaining or relevant enough to maintain. But as far as I'm concerned, and I think I speak to be on this as well, kind of, then you can say,
I mean,
yeah, but we grew up with it. Like, to give an example, our mom would play Kashmiri Bhajan every morning, every damn day, almost, and
still does.
Yeah, she still does when we go home. And at this point, it's not like we ever listen to that kind of music on our own, like on our iPods, and that was never on our iPods. So now when I look through, we try to download that music, we find it, and we like scour YouTube for those songs and those bhajans, and like that feeling that we get listening to that it's that connection that we have to home that really kind of cements why I feel like I want to maintain it. That kind of gives me the motivation. What was that?
If you could send some of those out, the ones that you found on YouTube, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah. What we're working on home is we have all these tapes. Right? We used to listen to. They're all in like cassette tapes. So I've like sent my dad this homework. It's like we're going to digitize all those cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And he's using Audacity or whatever, and then I'm going to like sit down and try to, kind of make what do you call it? Not canon, like categorize them all. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if you said like a playlist or something like that, but you're saying like a
like a library kind of. We had a lot of music, and especially growing up with it, like I don't think I'm gonna find that anywhere else. You can like try looking on YouTube, you get these shitty quality, like half-ass weird video kind of things. But it'd be nice to just have this like perfect collect library of all this music that we could continue.
Definitely.
And I'll say one more thing. Other than that emotional connection that I have that kind of motivates me or tells me that I really do need to keep this up, when I think in a more, I don't know, like logical, pragmatic sense, I feel like we have our culture, like every culture, every identity brings a unique worldview, right? And in an increasingly, in our globalized population, like different worldviews, diversity of worldviews, or just diversity of thought, makes a nation, makes a group of people, whatever, makes it stronger, right? And so to that, I feel like we kind of have a duty that, okay, we have this unique worldview, that if we don't continue, we just let die, right? But if we do continue, we help bring that diversity to wherever we go,
Mm-hmm.
and we help bring that way of thinking. If that, I don't know, does that make sense?
That makes sense. So, does Samia want to
Yeah.
comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Neil, I'm definitely on your train of thought. Growing up, I mean, even now, like, I think the base of, at least for me, Kashmiri identity is the language. And I mean, I think I'm pretty fluent in Kashmiri. I speak Kashmiri with my parents. I just talked to my grandma yesterday and I spoke to her completely in Kashmiri. So I think that for me has always been like the root of who we are, because our language is very different from Hindi and other languages spoken in India. And I think to go off of that, I also growing up just had my grandparents here and they were so almost exposable to me for like this wealth of knowledge and culture and history. And I think it's really important to me going forward to, I mean, I don't know if, if you marry someone Kashmiri or whatever, but like just for me as an individual, that is important to speak the language, know the food, know the history, know the landmarks of Kashmir. Um, and I think it is, I mean, like just yesterday, I was with a group of like some of my Indian friends, and one of them was like, "Oh, I didn't know Kashmiri is a language." And a part of me like cringed on the inside because I was like, and I literally audibly said, I said, "Hell yeah, it is." Um, but I mean, I was joking, but it just, a lot of people about in India don't even know what Kashmir is and what our grandparents and parents have gone through, or it's such a political hot topic. And I don't know, I'm personally really proud to be Kashmiri. I think we have, like, every Kashmiri person I know is super successful, super educated, super like on this like track of like wealth, not like material wealth, but just like emotional, mental wealth. And I think that says a lot to our upbringing and to our community. And I really hope it continues. Like, let's just say someone from Texas, one of us, were to move to, I don't know, Seattle. I'd hope they'd look into if there were a Kashmiri group there and Kashmiri young adults. And it's not about like having Shivratri puja every year, but it's just like meeting people who are like you and who have this very particular thread that is so different and so specific to us as individuals. And in terms of how I practice or execute it on a daily basis, I don't know, just the language, the food. Yeah, I don't really, I feel like so much of it is already ingrained in me that I can't even really think like, how do I do it on a daily basis? But for me, like, once again, the language is definitely the root. So
Cool. And then you can go to Adi.
So,
What are your
okay.
what's your take on this?
So throughout my life, I've never really, my identity has always been, I'm an American.
Adi, can y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Kind of like choppy.
Choppy.
Yeah, it's like grainy.
Plug my shit in.
Yeah, try. See if that's better.
Is that better? Can you hear me? Is it good? Do I need to speak
Not
closer to
so
the
much.
mic? Let me check. Settings.
It's still bad.
It's still bad?
Yeah.
Still kind of.
How about that? Is that better?
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely better. Much better.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
Okay, I had to change my primary microphone. All right, so most of my life I've never really well, first of all, self-identity is a very important thing, especially when you're growing up, because you try to figure out who you are. So for me, it's mainly been I've never really considered Kashmiri as a self-identity. It's mainly been I'm an American, because that's where I grew up, or how I grew up especially in school. It was always, I'm from Texas, I'm an American, I'm this, that, the other, and I just happen to be a Kashmiri person or an Indian person or whatever. The self identity of being Indian only came apart when friends would ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'd say, "Oh, my parents are from India," because I had a different skin tone than them, and we're all 10 years old and we don't know about a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
As far as the importance of maintaining it, I believe that's just a personal thing. I don't know if we should have some, grand Kashmiri cabal that decides what all Kashmiris do and declares that we should maintain our identity. For me, it's not really the biggest thing in my life is finishing graduate school. So right now, no, I have no, yeah, it's there. My Kashmiri identity is there, but it's not impacting my life as much as studying and working. So at this moment in my life, it's not the highest thing on my priority. And I don't know if I can say, because in the future, will it be higher, because I plan to stay in school forever. Maintaining my cultural identity, that's a weird thing, because I also identify as a Texan or a Southerner in my cultural identity, because I grew up in this society. I grew up on listening to George Strait and eating barbecue and wrestling. So I try to maintain that also. But to be serious, it's right now in my life. It's not a priority, because I have many other things that I want to do personally. So I guess that's a bad answer, but I mean, hey.
No, there are
No,
no
that's
bad,
good.
bad answers here.
Not bad answers, and
But
it's not like a pro Kashmiri answer.
I think
You're a dark
maybe
horse. We need the dark horse in this
Hey
panel.
man, I got my Dab and Santa sweater on, so someone's got
somebody had to do it in the
Okay.
middle of June, Adi. But yes,
Dude, I am freezing everything off right now for some reason.
But Adi,
I
I
thought that was a good
think
point. Good.
no, I like how when you mentioned it's not a priority, and I think that was a really interesting way to say it, because I for sure it's not a priority for me, right? Like you said, like grad school work, like those are all priorities for you. But I think for me it's just at the back of my mind importance. But I just thought that was an interesting comment that you said it's not a priority, because I also agree it's not a priority for me. It's just for me personally, it's like a cultural thing, and it's something that'll always be with me. But then it's like, when does that not become a priority for someone? When does that become a priority for someone? So I just thought that was an interesting comment.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll keep them coming. I'll keep them coming.
Yeah.
Interesting comments.
And I wanted to make one comment on your how you said that you identify more as a Texan or a Southerner or something like that, or as an American.
Yeah, my body's ready. Go for it.
Yeah. No, and I just, so when we identify as Kashmiris, I don't think most of us identify, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but as Kashmiris from Kashmir. I mean, we kind of identify as Kashmiri Americans. We're all,
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Indo-American or Kashmir. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, that's your baseline. Is I am in America. I work in America. I owe everything. All my education, family, friends, everything is kind of in America.
Yeah.
right? Maybe not family, but my whole, I grew up here. That is who I am, and it's just the qualify because the cool thing about America is we are the melting pot, and we are like that was where my kind of diversity comment was trying to come to is that we make America stronger or we make it more diverse just by bringing our unique cultural identity.
Exactly.
Just how Italian Americans have their own, we bring that into that melting pot and that unique point of view.
So this is so like I wanted to go off on that and say that like the fact that we grew up in America, at least the first generation, like the American born Kashmiris, I feel like that's the biggest thing that's why I don't see myself as like a Kashmiri. Like my parents are Kashmiri because at least because they grew up in that Kashmiri culture. That's what their life was. For us, and I'm going to assume because that's what I do. For all of us, we grew up as Americans who happen to have a Kashmiri influence at home, and that's for a lot of children of immigrants or people who have a different heritage that grow up in America. Is they don't have that primary identity of I'm a Kashmiri, and that's why it's hard for me to say I'm a Kashmiri because I didn't grow up in that culture. Like I'm not an Indian because I didn't grow up in India. I didn't get raised in the Indian culture. I don't know any of the Indian or Kashmiri idiosyncrasies. So that's not
Right.
me.
I think the
So,
tricky thing and like the difference that I see between like most cultures and our culture is that if we don't take it upon ourselves to like, there is no like home that's like going to continue the tradition and going to continue to allow us to pass this on generation over generation. Like we can't all just go back to Srinagar and just
hey man, I'm down to go if you are.
parents.
Just let me know when. I just gotta take time off work and I'll go.
It's not like the same, I guess, as in other places that.
Yeah, it's very hard to like do a pilgrimage to Kashmir.
Yeah.
Right. And like yeah, so I'm most interested to see like how our generation takes on is really like this whole like organic getting Kashmiris together thing that our parents did and I just like took for granted my whole life. But the fact that like we were able to like all hang out and just like get to know each other, we've known each other since we were like 2, like that's a very allowed for us to meet for things that we didn't even really maybe know were big deals. And personally, maybe I'm speaking for myself, I didn't really know, but for me now being a part of the community, like if we don't do that with the next generation, it's not like it's going to do itself. So that's the interesting part, I think.
For me personally, although yeah, I grew up in America too. I grew up in Texas specifically, but and this is just my point of view. Like I completely disagree with being American first. Like I feel like I have grown up as a Kashmiri with a little American influence. Like I struggled with assimilating into the American culture. I struggled in school because like socially because everyone like I didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand. I remember in 4th grade, my teacher asked me about my 2 best friends. They were a guy and a girl, and she was like, "You think they're flirting?" And I was literally like, "What is flirting?" Like I had no clue of that. And if American culture was a priority for me or my family, I'm pretty sure I would have definitely known what flirting was. But, being an Indian and that too also being Kashmiri, like flirting has no relevance and doesn't really matter. And so for me, like I feel like like how Adi was saying, how grad school currently is his priority and everything. For me, I struggle in doing things like school and just everyday chores and tasks because whatever exposure I've had to my own culture, like Kashmiri culture, has been like, wow, mind blowing. Because yeah, our mom has a lot of, she grew up there, but our dad's very spiritual, and I've become very spiritual because of him and through Kashmiri Shaivism. And so I struggle with doing everyday tasks like school, and all in my mind is thinking like, wow, why can't I just go like up to the Himalayas and like retire there and do Om for like the rest of my life? And because that's all that matters to me is that like I can like kind of Sonia, like what you were saying, like it's not a priority as in I'm not consciously thinking like, oh, I need to do this, like I need to maintain my Kashmiri identity. It's for me, it's just less in the back of my head. It's more just like always in my head, like this is who you are. Like I identify first as Kashmiri, then Indian, then American. And I don't know, I guess just because emotionally I grew up just more connected to that. I mean, I grew up more connected to home, to my parents, to the home environment than to my outside world. So for me, like, and me and Neil had this discussion. Like, I remember him when he first told me that he identified as American first. I was like, what? Because we grew up in the same household, and for me, I identify as Kashmiri first. I identify as American last. So that's I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting here is like hearing a variety of different responses to this question about like what it is, how we maintain our cultural identity, and yet we're all here on this episode. We have still some, we're trying to still like maintain that sort of connection, but we still have maintain a variety of like different on how we identify as a Kashmiri. So that's really cool. I'm glad that we have a variety of different responses. So our next question, actually, some of us already answered this, but we can ask like, of the cultural heritage, such as like food or language, are more important to you, or if there are any more important to you. I think Somya mentioned how like language was very important to maintaining her cultural identity. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, some more, or?
Is she there?
Okay. She might some technical difficulties. I don't know if she's. Go on with Vivek then. Do you want to get started? Like what?
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question.
Point to you.
I kind of go back to just a lot of the maybe Houston specific meetups that we were able to do over the years. As much like Kuldeep Uncle's Christmas like party as like a particular tradition. Those things where we just knew we were all going to get back together and get to be with each other and celebrate the culture. Just very indirectly, like like the food was there, the people were there, the clothes were there. We were just like living in it, and so I think that those parts mean the most to me. Just kind of like the times of gathering, I would say, and maintaining that is where I think I'd go back to my answer previously, which is as long as we can find ways to gather as a community throughout our lifetime, I think that's where we're able to kind of just stay together and maybe show how and our other identities continue to influence us as Kashmiri Americans, right? And like I don't know, I guess it's what's interesting to see like from a longer term view is like how like an Irish migrant from the 17 or 1800s might have identified as Irish for a certain number of years, but now maybe identifies as an American, but that doesn't mean that some of the traditions that they brought from that place don't stick with them through kind of the people that they interacted with and the gatherings that they continued to hold throughout the generations. So I think that'll be interesting. I mean, obviously we might not be around, we won't be around to see 200 years from now what the community looks like. Yeah, Avi's got the latest in stem cell regeneration coming around the corner, but yeah, actually we should ask Neil for that. Neil's got it probably, but but yeah, I mean, just seeing how we continue to kind of gather together. We do it often enough that we maintain that identity, and then we go on with our lives and we do other things as well. Like there's much more other things that we're working on and other things that we're going to continue to hold as priorities. But just gathering and maintaining the community, I think that's where I've always held the most value.
Yeah.
That's cool. Neil, do you want to go next?
I'm gonna go first. Yeah. there's feedback. So yeah, I definitely agree with the whole community thing, and kind of like Neil was saying earlier, um, having our community, or bringing us together, that gives us our own sense of diversity, et cetera, et cetera. But for me personally, this is because of like our mom specifically. Like a really important aspect of our culture is the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dear God, that music is amazing, and I could listen to it forever. And it's not. I just really like it because I mean, in general, I love music. I could talk about music for hours. If I could like have a if I could have a career where I just like word vomit all about music, that's what I do. But that's not as promising. But I just think it's beautiful because you hear the culture, you feel it through the music, you feel those those the expressions of this is what it is to be Kashmiri, singing about just different ways of devotion, and even like kind of like the love songs that aren't devotional songs. It's cute,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the songs will incorporate maybe like catchphrases or something that are pertinent to only like our language. And so I mean our language also is kind of tied into that. But I just think music and language, specifically music, is really that's how I that's like the most obvious sign, I guess, or the obvious kind of way to know, not to know, but to feel that I'm Kashmiri. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is exactly how I feel, because I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very emotive person. So music makes me feel like my home. Like I feel it in my heart. I feel it in the core of myself, and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm about. So for me personally, it's very heavily the music, and then especially when we have those like at Christmas and all our little gatherings, sometimes well, not the children, but the adults, they all get together and sing some music, and that's so beautiful. That's so fun too. Just seeing it live, and by our own parents. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would say that as well for me. But I want to backtrack a little bit and give a little context, or like how I contextualize this question, is that there are two different things that we could be talking about, and I don't know if this is technically the definitions of them, but this is how I contextualize it. There's culture, and then there's identity. And so your culture, the way I see that, is that at some given point in time, like the mix of all the traditions, beliefs, language, festivals, food, whatever that comes out of that kind of particular time period, right, would be culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's all those like more like physical, tangible qualities. And then what identity is just choosing to like, do I call myself a Kashmiri Pandit? Like, do I still identify that? So in that identity, what's up?
I mean, that just doesn't kind of trivialize identity to just
Oh, Ali, your
mood.
voice is kind of.
Yeah,
It's choppy again.
Again, oh god,
what?
why is it choppy? Is that better? Can you hear me?
So like, yeah.
What I was saying was, if you can hear me at least, isn't calling your identity just sounds like your identity, like you're saying that identity is simply just a mood of what you say it's however you feel or something. My identity is much more than just I believe I'm this. I mean, it's some internal like primal. It's who you are. It's not a it's I identity is you manifesting in whatever way you can who you truly are. It's your mind, body, soul all wrapped up. So
well, and I think I'm not trying to get into like the identity, the whole identity of you as an individual. I'm talking
no, we can do this now. Let's settle this now.
No, I'm talking more about how we identify as Kashmiris, like using. So when I said it's not just how you feel; it's saying that I can say I'm a Kashmiri Pandit. And now,
Right.
what comes along with being a Kashmiri Pandit is kind of what I want to get out of this discussion or initiate out of this discussion, because we're not just going to take that same culture from that point of time and then try to emulate and recreate every part of that culture from the glory days of the 1970s, 80s, or whatever when we actually lived in Kashmir and all that. It's going to be the culture is going to be different. We're going to keep some things like our language, our religion, etc. But we're going to do other like we'll identify as Kashmiri Pandits and meet and watch like a football game. Like that will be part of the culture that we create. But the identity part is that we're still meeting as Kashmiri Pandits.
Yeah.
So now this question, what I kind of wanted to get at was what aspects from those traditions speak most to your identity as a Kashmiri. So like Soumya said, it was language, right? Like Vivek said, it was meeting, festivals or meeting as a community, right? Like Subi said, it was a music. So these are, I kind of want to get an idea of what does most of our generations deem the most important to their identity as a Kashmiri Pandit, because that's what we're going to basically be focusing on. And it's not even an active thing we have to focus on, but that's what we're going to see bleed into the next generation to maintain like that connects us together as Kashmiri Pandit. So Soumya, I think you missed out on a couple of things, but
Yeah.
we're on the second question.
Yeah,
Can you hear us?
sorry, y'all. My just had some difficulties, but I'm back.
Okay.
Okay.
Just carry on.
We're on the second question. So we're talking about what aspects of our culture do you see being most important to your Kashmiri identity. Vivek was talking about festivals and like just being together,
Mm.
just having gatherings. Subi was talking about music and how much that connects her to her Kashmiri culture, and then I was going off on this rant about culture and identity. Okay, that was how I contextualize it. Is that we have culture are different physical aspects, tangible aspects, and then identity is just saying that I am a Kashmiri, and then we'll see what parts of those, what tangible aspects we want to include in that identity. So for me, it would be, I think I would agree with Soumya, it would be language first. I feel like that's the most important, that connects to the most. Because that kind of is a gateway to so many other different aspects of our culture. Like without the language, it's hard to really, appreciate the music, right? I mean, you still can, or it's hard to appreciate some of the history behind us. Because sometimes we won't understand what our grandmas and grandpas
Even
are telling us.
the food.
Even the food, yeah. Even the food, like use this ingredient. You're like, fuck, I don't know what ingredient is that. What's it in English?
Yeah, it's in English.
Yeah. So yeah, to me, I think I would definitely list language first, and then music. I definitely have a huge. Me and Subi both have like a big connection to that. And then I would list third. It would be for me the religion and our philosophy.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like we really haven't had that much exposure. The way we grew up, our dad is like super into that, and that's really like all he does.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of exposure to that, to our like Shaivite philosophy, and we have a very unique, like strange, like philosophy of Hinduism. So it's a unique sect, you could say, of Hinduism. And we have very like unique thinkings that came out of Kashmir. I mean, right now what you see as Hinduism is kind of this more homogenous kind of thought, and like some of us with the Chinmay mission or Arya Samaj and all that, and they all teach that Advaita Vedanta philosophy. That's like the mainstream Hindu philosophy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that we actually, from our valley, there's a very ancient and unique tradition. It's the Shaivite, like Trika philosophy. And so that means a lot to me. And that's probably also something really important that I want to continue to make sure that we are at least aware of what, I mean, we don't all have to follow that philosophy, but at least that people are aware that this does exist. Like we do have a really unique and, in my mind, like legit and uh,
It's yeah.
philosophy, yeah, religion, philosophy that we should consider. So that would be for me up there, my most important. And then after that, I mean, obviously food, festivals, just those like rote traditions like fun puja and eating the all the like the roll. That's really yummy. Um, yeah, and then those all kind of fall into place as well. But for me, I would say language would be most important. My the religion, and then yeah, music.
Mhm. Um, so how would you guys say like Kashmir and visiting your parents' hometowns and home villages? How has that or how does that like form your cultural identity?
Wait, hold on. Before we move on, I don't think Adi got a chance to answer
Did I not? Oh, okay,
the
okay.
second
Sorry.
question. Yeah.
Sorry.
I like food. That's for me. Food, like okay, so it's a very simple answer. It's a very primitive answer that food is the most important thing. But if you go deeper on why food is such a vital aspect of not just Kashmiri tradition, but a lot of holidays and a lot of traditions, is that food is the one thing that you need to survive. Food, water, and oxygen. Food is very important. So it's very interesting that we have integrated, not we as the human species have integrated food into every aspect of um, of our cultural identity or religious identity or whatever. So, I mean, I like to eat, so food. I love to eat, so food. Um, but yeah, if you can think about it more, you can delve deep and you can open your third eye to the mothership and go all the way to thinking about how food is very important to tradition and why it has such a uh, high standing or a high value in religious traditions or cultural traditions. But man, it's I woke up like an hour ago, so
No, I think that's a really good point. Like every culture you
yeah.
look at,
I didn't study enough sociology. I'm just a math person, so I can't really articulate it that well.
no. I mean, it's kind of a almost obvious point. Like every culture you look at, food is almost like the central. Like food keeps people together. Food brings people together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. From an anthropological standpoint, food was the first mechanism for socialization for mankind.
Yeah.
So if we go all the way back, food is the most important thing for any person because it is the first instance of social integration from a sociological
No,
standpoint.
and that's true. Like our like Kashmiri parties kind of revolve around
That's
like
why Thanksgiving is the most important Kashmiri holiday.
What?
That's why Thanksgiving is the most important Kashmiri holiday.
Yeah.
So I guess to go along the food train of thought, if food is so important, do any of you see it to be important to incorporate Kashmiri food in your future cuisine? Like when you're off in your own home, do you want to learn how to make Kashmiri food? Will that be something a future life goal and incorporate? Will your significant other, you explain to them, hey, this is what a nadaru is, this is what Rogan Josh is? So I'm just interested, because we keep talking about food and I love food, but do you all see food, Kashmiri food, being in your future after you don't see your mom so often and she's not the one cooking it for you?
Yeah.
So as someone who lives by themselves, I also live less than a mile from home, so I have no authority on answering this question.
I had Rogan Josh last night, so I also.
I think my future in that I'm probably going home for dinner. So
God,
The
y'all
answer
know,
is definitely yes, though. Wait, go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm
No,
saying
but I'm just
y'all have it
saying,
real
like,
good.
when you live in your own
yeah, like
home,
Dallas.
Yeah.
with your family and significant other, like, are you going to cook your kids Nadaru, Rogan Josh, Damalu? Or are you just gonna say, oh, whenever grandma comes, she can give you that food?
I mean, she's alive. Yeah. why
That's a
not?
good question because I have to say at this point in my life, I don't like cooking is just not at all a priority. Like I just, my diet is mainly like protein shakes and I'll like make grilled fish or like sandwich like peanut butter sandwich. I just don't cooking is like food is like okay, how quick can it be made and how much can I put in my stomach? That's kind of and I recognize that like that needs to change at some point. And when I do start giving more importance to
You're also
cooking,
in medical school, so that's totally justified.
yeah,
Like, you have
No,
other
it's a very
things.
efficient way of living. I mean,
yeah.
You have other things to worry
Neil, do
about.
you like study or something? Do you do that? I don't know.
Do I study? I don't know. I live sometimes. It
any
happens.
medical students just study, or do they just like learn through osmosis? Like, do they just
Yeah, that's what we do. We just cram two books.
come up with just like lay down for 6 hours and
No, but Soumya, I think you bring up a really good point. I think there has to be like, because this is part of what like the gatherings wouldn't be the same in 40 years if there was no Rogan Josh, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Then why are we gathering?
yeah. What are we even? Why
Like,
come?
I
There's no
don't
Rogan
want to
Josh?
see you guys if it's just like grilled chicken. Like,
yeah, you
Yeah.
guys came over to my place and I made pasta, so like this is all this thrown shade at future us is kind of throwing me off. So I don't know what's up. I made white people food. And you guys came over to my place.
Oh wait, hey, y'all have to excuse me for 1 second. I'll be back.
Is it medical emergency?
Better.
But yeah, I'll probably learn through experimentation, and I'll try to figure out like, hey, is there because it's one thing to just make Rogan Josh and Mutts and the Ruin Veneer, but like, what can you do? Like, how far? What's the potential for Kashmiri food? Like, what can we add to it or remove from it and change it? How can we evolve Kashmiri food?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
I'd like to keep it relatively like where it's at, like
I mean, I was thinking garlic and all that.
it tastes pretty good, I have
She's not none of this fusion Kashmiri food stuff.
No, I'm saying like let's open a food like Korean and Kashmiri food or something. Like, no. We're not. This is like.
Rogan Josh tacos. That doesn't sound good to anyone.
That sounds, or Kisada sounds amazing. Like, Kisada sounds pretty good. So.
I could see it tasting good, but
Yeah, it doesn't beat like a whole plate of rice and Roman goat. Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
the
this
munch
just sounds
pot.
good.
Manjahad.
I
Okay.
I'm so hungry.
Manjahak is like the ultimate Kashmiri. It's like our it's like the golden fleece for our. Is that Jason and the Argonauts?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very like idiosyncratic to our like. No other.
Manjahak, I think good Manjahak is probably the most important thing about Kashmiri. It is our like I think that's actually what we're supposed to do. Is not like do fun every year and Shivratri. It's to find a good fucking Manjahak and tell everyone about it, and that's it.
should we, just because we only have like 8 minutes left and I want to respect everyone's time, should we move to the last question?
Good 8 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. Basically, how do you think we can? We've been talking about a bit, but like, how do you think we can move forward with all this information about like how we and so basically, what is your vision for the future of our community? And like, how do you see KOA like our camps, see our social media, our representatives? How do you see them working into helping maintain our cultural identity?
So, yeah, I can take a stab at this one. I think that unfortunately KOA has the potential of phasing out after our parents are no longer physically able or even here to prolong that. That being said, I do feel there are passionate individuals, specifically on the East Coast, because that is an older chapter than at least Texas. I'm not sure about California. Who I think are currently taking it upon themselves to keep that tradition alive. I do not know how Texas KOA will be after our parents, or if we move to other states or other countries. But I do honestly think the East Coast has a very rich and integrated Kashmiri community. So I would like to see that here if we all choose to stay and raise families in Texas. But I honestly don't. I could see it dying out, to be completely honest.
All right.
Question is, like, how do you think we can maintain that? Do you think we should, you know, we have, do you think we should put like food recipes online, or should we use technology to like maintain our cultural identity and connect it? So does anyone else want to comment? Neil, Subi, Vivek?
Yeah, I also see that it has a potential of phasing out, and I'd rather it not.
Mhm.
And I'm not as like